In today's episode, I speak with Marquis Matson about taking control of your professional life by leaving behind the structure. Here, we discuss the steps to take in how Marquis became happier and much more successful once she left behind the corporate grind. This conversation includes how to make remote working more successful and the leadership style required to make it happen. Listen in to the rest of the conversation. Before we begin our conversation, here is a quick shout out to the pathologically curious. Check out the Maverick Paradox magazine. It's a digital magazine written by Mavericks for business owners and professionals. You can find the magazine at themaverickparadox.com. The magazine's aim is to provoke maverick leadership everywhere. Welcome to the Maverick Paradox podcast, where we explore what it is to be a maverick and discover effective modes of leadership. I am Judith Germain, and my mission is to propel the maverick mindset into a world where character and integrity will ultimately have a higher premium than personality and bureaucracy. So thank you for joining me on this journey. If you would like to continue with me, then please subscribe to my podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, or one of the other popular podcast platforms. And today our guest is Marquis Matson. Hi, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine, thank you. It's absolutely beautiful sunshine where I am right now.
Same here, and I'm in Australia.
Oh, wow. Okay, cool. Before we get going, tell us a little bit about you.
Yeah, so I am a content marketer, or what's called an SEO. So I work completely remotely, and I started doing that mostly because I used to work in higher education in the United States, and I just didn't like clocking in and out every single day just to kind of support someone else's mission. So I quit and left the country and shopped around for a different career that maybe would fit my own personal goals, and this is the one I settled on, and yeah, it's been pretty easy since then.
Wow, I love the way that you say, well, I didn't want to do that, so I quit my job and left the country. Like, that's normal. That's quite maverick to do that.
Yeah.
What made you think that you could do that? I mean, because most people wouldn't, so it's quite a thing.
Yeah, I know. And a lot of my friends thought I was a little bit crazy, but the truth is that, at the time I was living in Miami, and so the international airport connects to a lot of different countries pretty easily and for fairly cheap airfare. And I had a friend that was really into traveling. And so on one of my, I had a few vacation days stored up, and she asked if I wanted to join her on a trip to Colombia in South America. So I went, and then I realized Colombia, which everybody in the US knows as the drug cartel. That's where Pablo Escobar is. So it sounds really scary. But then when I went, and it was just so beautiful and welcoming and easy, really, and I felt safe and supported, I realized that it wasn't so far out of reach. And so I just kept using my vacation days for little trips like that. And so one day I was like, I just don't want to have to clock in and save up vacation days to live my life. So I just quit. I had already felt what it was like to travel, and it was easy. So it wasn't that scary when I decided to do it.
Wow. So we're going to talk about taking ownership of your professional life by leaving behind all those kind of structures. So was this the beginning for you? Is that what you did?
Yeah, exactly. I had basically no other skills other than what I had been trained in. So I had quite a bit of money saved up. So I traveled for a while, and I at first wanted to write because I do enjoy writing, and it's the easiest thing that you can do without any training. Excuse me. But I soon realized that you don't make very much money doing that, at least not at the entry level. And and so then I just sort of looked into ways to make better money, and that's how I landed upon SEO and got in with Book Retreats, who I work with now, and they trained me on everything I needed to know to do it for myself. And yeah, that's really all it took. Just kind of shopping around for things that I was naturally good at that I didn't need an education in, like a formal education.
That makes sense. So how does somebody go about doing that, doing what you've done?
Yeah, I have helped a few people actually to do it because I really believe that it's the best. I think it's going to save the world if we can all just be happy and fulfilled in what we do.
Mm.
So what I tell them first is there's freelancing sites like Upwork.com or Fiverr, and you can go and apply for little gigs, and it's horrible pay. Like it's $5 for an article. So you can't live that way, but it helps you sort of develop your writing skills. And not only that, it helps you kind of understand how the industry works. It helps you understand what people are looking for, what you're naturally good at, and lots of different options in between. Like if you're really good at social media, then you'll be able to find social media gigs, where if you're good at graphic design, then you can go and do that. And then that's sort of what I did. I just went in and tried lots of different things, and then I found that SEO was the thing that came most easily to me. So I went online and I looked at different trainings and read different articles and just taught myself as much as I could. And so that's what I recommend too. Like go and try everything, and then whatever is easiest for you, follow that, because it will be easier the further you go.
So is that something that's easier to do if you're young compared to, I don't know, someone who's 40, 50, 60?
Right. Yeah, I would say there's definitely an advantage to being younger because you grow up using computers.
Mm-hmm.
And so my brain naturally just is able to work on a computer more easily than, say, my parents or my grandparents. But if you want to not work in a traditional job, you absolutely don't have to. You don't have to work online. Like I also worked in a school when I was living in Ecuador, mostly just because I wanted to learn Spanish, so I just got a job there. And it's pretty easy for English speakers to find jobs in schools in these countries. So even if you didn't want to work in the country where you're from, you could go find something anywhere, really.
Wouldn't you not need, but you had a teacher qualification, didn't you? Because you were doing that in the States. Would you be able to do that? Would I be able to go to Ecuador and teach? Because I don't have a
No.
teacher degree.
Yeah, no, I didn't have a teaching degree. Actually, I have a marriage and family therapist degree. So I was in counseling in the US. And so when I applied to the school, it's pretty remarkable. They basically just saw that I was from the US, saw that I had a college degree, and said, okay, they trusted that I knew English well enough that I could work at the school. It was, yeah, it was a private school. So I'm not sure if public schools would have different qualification requirements, but yeah, it was pretty easy, honestly.
Okay, so I totally understand the desire not to work for, a traditional company. I just wondered if there's any steps that someone could take. So if somebody is in, I don't know, an administrator or something in a company decided they didn't want to do that anymore, what would they need to do to get out and do something different?
I think that no matter your age, it would be helpful to become comfortable with technology. It's just going to make your life so much easier because that's the way that people do things these days. But aside from that, I would recommend looking online for different courses that you can train yourself. Like there are tons of free options for learning different skills. Like Code Academy is free and it teaches you how to code. Or Udemy and Coursera are both options, or Skillshare, for example. These are all websites where they have courses taught by professionals, and they're just teaching you how to do different skills. Some of them are super basic and some of them are quite advanced. So that's what I would recommend. Look at those courses and see what's exciting to you, and just teach yourself as much as you can, and then find these low-paying gigs online. Because the low-paying thing, the good thing is it gives you experience without the pressure of having to perform really well. So it's pretty easy to find your way if you're open to putting in a lot of work for little money at first.
Okay. Can I ask how old you are?
I'm 32.
Okay. So it's it's definitely possible without being, I don't know, in your gap year.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so because I'm American, things are quite expensive there, and so I went to grad school and racked up so much money in student debt. Like, it's embarrassing how much I owe, and that was a huge consideration for me as well. I got this degree that I am going to owe for the rest of my life, and then I was working in that profession, and then I decided to leave it all behind and start something new. Like, it was a little scary, but my life is so much better now, and I'll still be paying it off the same way I was before. So yeah, you can do it at any age, and it's not going to change your life too much in ways that you think. It'll change it in a lot better ways. Like, you'll be a lot more like, for example, I didn't know I was good at these kinds of things. I didn't know that I could go and live in a foreign country by myself, and you learn these things about yourself, and it's really empowering. It's really beautiful.
Yeah, you said that you're happy now in what you're doing, and you told me before that out of all the startups and all the places you've worked, where you currently are, that book retreat, so the leadership style is really good. What is that leadership style?
Yeah, I think that's why I was so attracted to your podcast, because it's sort of like what you're talking about. There's two different types of mavericks, and there's the good kind and the bad kind. Mm-hmm. And their style is sort of like, okay, let's take all these skills that we have, or that you have in you, and let's do good in the world. And then let's just support each other in doing as much good as we possibly can. And so it's a really fun environment where we get to see how we can not manipulate the world, because that's not good, but, encourage the world to do good things just by our own ambition and our own personal goals. So they support you, and they train you when needed, and they give you the space if you need space to grow a little more slowly, or if you're hungry for more, they give you more opportunities within the company to practice your own skills. It's really just a fun learning environment for all of us to develop what we already have within us that maybe we didn't know before.
That sounds really interesting. How do they do that?
With a lot of consideration and skill, I think. The company is for yoga, meaning we're trying to spread yoga and meditation, because we really think those are good tools that people can have that they don't really have to pay for, like, you can take care of yourself at home with your practice. So they focus on the principles of yoga when they're guiding us, so they're trying to always have an open heart, an open mind, and doing no harm, and supporting one another in a way that is aligned with their beliefs. So that's probably the reason why it works so well. And then the second part is they're just extremely organized. Everything is completely virtual. So we have to be super organized in everything that we do and document every single thing, because eventually you're going to need to know what happened. Even if it's just a tiny little error, you're going to need to look back on it. And so everything is really organized and really loving and supportive. So it's a great combination to kind of generate a lot of creativity and good. Yeah.
So is everybody all around the world, or are they all in Australia?
No, everybody's all around the world. Nobody really has a home. Everybody's a nomad. So that's the cool part, because sometimes we get to meet up with one another. Like, I travel quite often, and I'll meet people in Thailand or in Mexico or in India. And it's just a fun group to be able to work with and then catch up with somewhere exotic.
That sounds good. So how many people work for the company? Do you know?
Yeah, I don't know exactly, because there's a development side that I don't actually interact with that much, but I think in the upper 20s, it's a pretty big group for what it started out as, which was it was just a couple yogis trying to build something together, and one by one they hired more and more until now it's 27 maybe.
Okay.
I can't remember.
So I was just looking at the values of the company, where they say honesty, self-responsibility, kindness, dedication, service, beauty, and human well-being. So a lot of the things that you were saying in there, that seems to very much show the human well-being and the beauty side of things.
Yeah.
How do you demonstrate self-responsibility?
Yeah, well, because it's completely remote, it's up to you to actually do what's expected of you. And I think that is what I owe so much to this company, because they taught me a lot. They taught me about how to be a remote worker. They taught me about SEO. They taught me even about yoga and my own practice. And one of the things is, when you are working from home, which you are as a digital nomad, you have absolute freedom to spend your time however you want throughout the day. And that's super dangerous when your livelihood depends on you sitting down in front of your computer and working. And I think that they're really good at that. They're really good at kind of setting clear expectations. Like, this is what we need from you, and this is how it works for me, and this is how others do it in the company. Try it like that. And if you find a better way that works for you, then go ahead and do that. But if you're not meeting what's expected of you, then yeah, we need to talk about it and figure out what went wrong so that we can find a better way for you to do it.
That does seem very enlightened and also very in tune with the way things need to be now.
Yeah.
So what advice could you give to all those remote workers out there who are struggling without having a defined structure? Because one of the things that we're seeing in the UK is that people are working much more hours. So they're stopping maybe in the day to take care of childcare responsibilities or something like that, but then they are working until midnight and they're not really early, so the working day becomes extreme. So they might stop for a couple of hours in the day, but they're working more hours and at very antisocial hours. Is there any advice that you could give?
Yeah, I think for me, what I've sort of developed over these few years living like this is a few things. One, I try to find ways to be as efficient as possible. I don't want to waste my time on anything that's not actually going to help me reach my goal, because then it's like time slips away so easily when you're just on the internet and trying to find information or something. So I try to be very clear about the best way to use my time, and meaning, if there's a task and only I can perform it, then I'll sit down and do it in however much time it takes me to do it, but I'll try to do it quickly. And if there's anything else that can be done without my expertise, then I hire virtual assistants, and you can find them pretty cheap for like $5 an hour, and their English is impeccable, especially in the Philippines, for example. So I try to delegate as much as possible. And the second thing that really helps me is I treat basically everything as if it's special. So like in the morning, if I'm going to have coffee, I'll sit outside and watch the garden, watch the birds come and eat the little bugs, or just like observe things around me and make it a really special moment. Or if I take a shower, I'll have the lights off and put on candles and essential oils, and every single thing becomes sort of like a special moment. So that way my day isn't so heavy and burdened with work. So I delegate things that I don't really need to be doing myself. And then in between all of that work, I create a really special environment for myself.
I think that's quite interesting, that the stuff that you think. So how does it work then? So do you get paid? You get paid a sum of money, and do you then take some of that money you get paid to get virtual assistants to do the stuff that you don't want to do? Is that how you do it?
Yeah, it depends on, so I have a few clients now. Book Retreats is one of them. And so with them, we have in-house writers who are all helping me achieve my goals. But for my other clients where I'm working as an independent contractor, yeah, they give me a stipend to hire different either writers or assistants or whatever. And even for myself, sometimes I'll just use my own money because I feel like, you know what? I don't want to do this right now. I just don't, and I don't need to. And it's like $30 to hire this other person to do it for me. So I'll just spend that $30 and it gives me a whole day free to myself to do whatever else I want. So it really depends And that's the other thing. You need to really consider whether or not it's worth spending your money on. And for me, a lot of the times, a virtual assistant is worth the money because it's so cheap and it helps you save so much time for yourself.
Wow, that's quite an interesting take on it, actually. That you, because not a lot of people like to pay for virtual assistants, but you're not the first person I've had a conversation with on the podcast that has gone to the Philippines. Are you saying that that's a good place to get these virtual assistants?
Yeah, definitely, because they speak English just like you and I. There's, sometimes I have worked with people where English was their second language, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that because I also tried to learn a language, so I understand how difficult it is, and it's commendable that they're working in their second language. But if I'm going to have them writing emails on my behalf, for example, it needs to sound really natural, like English is their first language because the email's coming from me, really. But with the Philippines, their English is just like mine, so it works really well. Yet their cost of living is so low that you can pay them between $5 and $10 an hour, and it's remarkable. I love it. I've worked with a few, and it's been a really great experience.
Sounds good. So before we end, is there anything that I should have asked you that I didn't, or anything that you want to say that might inspire others to make this big life change that you've made?
Yeah. I think for me, what the motivator is not just the freedom to do whatever you want, but this world is so crowded. And as you know, because we're all watching the news right now with COVID and everything, there's a lot of, sometimes it feels like there's a lot of bad going on. And I feel like I've grown up with so much at my fingertips for no reason other than I was accidentally born into this family that I was born into. And so for me, my hugest motivation in doing what I do is how can I use my resources, my energy, my privilege, and everything to do good in this world. And what that's been for me is to promote yoga and meditation, because I've seen how it helps other people. I've seen how it helps me. So that's what I would recommend. Like, how can you use your time on this earth to do something that you're proud of or that you're happy about, and then find a way to do it. If it takes a year to get there, that's nothing. That's no time at all. It'll pass anyway. So just give it a shot.
Wow, that is actually a great, inspiring end. Find something that, in fact, it's more inspiring than the usual find your passion and do it, but do something that you can be proud of. I mean, that's fantastic. There are so many people who are doing jobs that they are not proud of. So that's really cool. Thank you so much for that. Marquis, would you come back again and talk about yoga maybe or something else?
Yeah, sure, definitely. I'd love to.
Brilliant. Thank you. Thank you once again for tuning into the Maverick Paradox podcast. I hope you have enjoyed listening to my conversation with Marquis as much as I enjoyed having it. If you are pathologically curious and would love to find out more about the Maverick Paradox, then please subscribe to this podcast on one of the popular podcast platforms. Alternatively, you could explore our resources on Mavericks at maverickparadox.com or read the Maverick Paradox magazine. We publish frequently each week. If you subscribe, you will get our monthly newsletter. And let's not forget my book, The Maverick Paradox, The Secret Power Behind Successful Leaders. For those that love a good discussion, you could apply to join our exclusive Facebook group. And finally, if you would like to work with us or just interested in finding out more about the Maverick at work, check out our website maverickparadox.co.uk.